Good evening. 10 years ago today, mass car production at the Longbridge plant in Birmingham came to an end. At the time, unions described the collapse of MG Rover as the darkest day in the history of the British car industry.
In a moment, we'll look back at the turbulent history of the company. But today saw the launch of the MG6 at a time when MG is said to be the fastest growing car brand in the UK. And there may be a glimmer of hope for the old MG Rover's creditors too. Mark Goff reports.
This iconic British brand is expanding in Chinese hands. The new MG6 went on sale today. It's an upgrade to the old model, launched with full honours by the then Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao. That was the first all-new car from MG Motor. It was followed by the MG3, trying to win over Ford Fiesta drivers. The MG6, at just under £14,000, is aimed at Ford Focus drivers. Ambitions are modest. They'll make just 600 a year, so no return to the mass production numbers when it was MG Rover.
This year we got a target of about 600 vehicles to sell of the MG6. Last year we sold just over 2,300 vehicles. The majority of those were MG3. This year we're looking to sell 4,000 MG3s and, as I said, 600 new MG6s. We'd like to get to a significant number where we're a significant player in the market. If that's 10,000 or 20,000 vehicles, so be it. What we're looking at is building a successful product range and a successful brand.
It's not by coincidence that this car was launched today, a decade after the old business MG Rover collapsed. The Chinese know it's important to look back to the heritage, but it's the future which is now key for the hundreds of people who work at the factory in Longbridge. And under the Chinese, investment has poured into the business.
Just over 300 employees in the factory. We're looking to expand that as well. We have obviously the head of global design and engineering at Longbridge. We also produce the vehicles as well, so we have manufacturing staff and we have the sales and marketing and after sales departments as well. We've invested over £500 million in the UK alone. That's both in the Longbridge site, in growing the company, and I think it's testament to the commitment to the UK and the Britishness of this brand that investment continues. Next year we have an SUV coming. The SUV sector in the UK is growing very, very quickly, so we'll have a fantastic product to compete in the SUV sector. And then after that, we're pretty much rolling out a new car every year until the end of the decade.
A decade after MG Rover died, they hope to end this decade with new growth.
Well, today we've learned that £56 million in overpaid VAT could be payable to MG Rover creditors. Mark Goff can tell us more.
Yeah, one of the major controversies about the collapse of MG Rover was the amount of redundancy that all the workers got, or rather, the amount of redundancy that they didn't get. And we think they got in the region of about £600 each. Well, over the last 10 years, the administrator, PricewaterhouseCoopers, has been trying to claw back some of the money from the old business, trying to sell off assets, etc. Well, today we learn that there might be another £56 million available. Now, that is from VAT, which was overpaid by the company on cars that they made and then sold to the operators. Now, that's the subject of a court case because there are several parties who've got competing claims on that money. But a few minutes ago, I spoke to the union about this, who represents the workers. They said if there's another £56 million kicking around somewhere, it should go in redundancy payments to the workers who lost their jobs.
Thank you. Well, as we've heard, some positive news today, but 10 years ago, a different story for MG Rover. More than 6,000 people were made redundant.
And those workers are still waiting for justice. Rajiv Popat looks back.
Jubilant scenes 15 years ago at Longbridge, when MG Rover was bought from BMW. The new directors were hailed as heroes.
I couldn't ask for anything else. It's absolutely brilliant.
The Phoenix Consortium, who went on to become known as the Phoenix Four, paid a nominal £10 for MG Rover's assets. But success was short-lived. 5 years later, staff would leave work for the last time after the firm collapsed. 6,500 people were made redundant. Even a year later, many struggled to find work again.
Do you think you'll ever have a permanent job again?
I can't see it. It's if I wanted to go permanent, I'd be earning half the money I was earning, which then really equates onto whether we can still afford the house, and it has a whole impact on your lifestyle.
There's been house repossessions, there's been people that got a lot into debt, there's been financial breakups because of financial circumstances, and also there's just been the community devastation as well.
The collapse had a devastating impact on the economy, particularly in South Birmingham.
That's where the economic impact was most keenly felt, not only in the families affected, but also in shops, in how people spent their money, in local pubs, cafes and so on. So there's a kind of ripple effect throughout South Birmingham from this massive economic shock.
The company racked up debts of more than £1 billion. A government inquiry found the Phoenix Four, John Towers, Nick Stevenson, Peter Beale and John Edwards, had paid themselves a total of £42 million.
The Phoenix Four promised to put money into a trust fund for the Rover workers. That never happened. There may have been technical reasons why that was the case, but only a small amount of money ever made its way to the trust fund, and the workers eventually voted to give that away to a hospice. It was such a small amount of money. So they never saw the kind of compensation that they expected, and that's left a very bitter feeling even 10 years on. I'd still like to see the Phoenix Four actually put their hands in the pockets and actually contribute some of their millions towards the former workers.
Today, the site, which was once desolate, is occupied by the Chinese-owned MG Motor UK. Around 400 people make 3,000 cars a year. It's already home to a shopping centre, a college, and there are plans for 2,000 new homes. 3,700 people already work here. Developers of the 460-acre complex say their target is to create 10,000 jobs. Rajiv Poppard, ITV News, Birmingham.
Well, the Labour leader Ed Miliband has been visiting the West Midlands today on the election campaign